Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man at sXeblues, and today I'm bringing for you a bunch of new DC Comics New 52 reviews. And starting us off, we're going to be looking at Batman number 3. In the previous issue, we saw Bruce Wayne was attacked by an owl-looking new foe, and both Bats and the foe managed to just barely survive the fall off of the top of Old Wayne Tower, and soon thereafter, Owlboy steals a car to make his getaway. But this issue begins with a flashback to 1922. Alan Wayne, the great-grandfather of Bruce Wayne, is running through Gotham's city streets in his night clothes when he's stopped by a couple of beat cops. He proclaims he's being followed by people, or perhaps owls, and they're after him, and that their nests are everywhere, including in his own home. When the cops turn away to whisper amongst themselves, Wayne falls, or maybe jumps, down a manhole and dies. We then catch up with Batman, interrogating the last of 5 subway tunnel gangs that he knows must have seen the Owlman coming, since that's the only way he could have gotten into Old Wayne Tower undetected, through the tunnels. But none of the gangs seem to know anything. Back at the Batcave, Alfred spins the yarn of Alan Wayne's obsession with these owls, and fears that it could be the group known as the Talon, according to an old Gotham folk song. Leaving with that in mind, Bruce meets up with Lincoln March once again, this time in the hospital, after the little bout with the Owl Boy, for a pep talk. But something Lincoln says actually gets Bruce thinking. He recalls how his great-grandfather, Alan, was familiar with the power of superstition, and thus built himself or paid for constructions of, posthumously, buildings all throughout Gotham, taking out the 13th floor of each of them and substituting it with a small space instead. In each of the buildings Batman goes to investigate, he finds the nests of potentially multiple Talon members, and photos of them dating back to 1891 and as current as 2006. The issue ends soon thereafter with an explosive cliffhanger that I don't want to spoil for you here, as the primary Owlman looks on. As for showing a page in this issue, I want to go with the page that shows the 1891 photo of this mysterious group called the Talon. This was a pretty good book overall, and as far as rating it, I'm going to go 4 out of 5. And that'll actually get us on to Supergirl number 3. As we begin this issue, Supergirl is having a tremendously hard time accepting what her cousin Kal-El, whom she's not even sure if she believes that's who he is telling her about the fate of Krypton and their families. Neither is she willing to accept that nothing can be done about it, and is incredulous in the face of Superman's explaining that Earth is his new home, and that he uses his powers to help its citizens. Nearly at the breaking point, she flies off, set on tracking down the craft she came to Earth in. Upon returning to where it crashed, she finds the vessel missing, but is suddenly accosted by a floating orb emitting a hologram of this dude called Mr. Tycho. This guy is very interested in her. Knowing that she can't understand his words, however, he leads her to his orbiting satellite by showing her an image of her pod, which Kara readily follows. And what follows is a sequence not unlike the scene in the Chris Reeve Superman film, where Supes is coming into Lex Luthor's underground hideout. He's tested by various obstacles, and here we see the same thing play out, although it's Mr. Tycho's obstacles set against Supergirl. She's attacked by superheated butterflies, and then a globular creature Tycho calls the Brain, which is essentially this walking goo with a nervous system and brainstem. Kara is on the brink of defeat before flying herself and the creature through the wall out into space, and thus manages to survive, as the Brain apparently can't function in a vacuum. Here we see Tycho is akin to Syndrome from The Incredibles, because he's building these things and then building better versions with the failure of each previous incarnation. But Supergirl simply wants to get back to her pod. She's only just come to Earth and isn't yet sure how to use her powers, but she manages to trick her eyes into X-ray visioning for her to locate it on another section of the satellite. The consequences of returning to her craft, however, which was apparently constructed out of elements on Krypton, do not leave her well-spirited as the issue ends. I'll leave it there. As for showing a page in the issue, I want to go with the one that shows the Brain debuting, to Kara's horror, and as it happens, she really doesn't have a good time with. As for rating the issue, I'm going to rate it 4 out of 5, because here we have Kara coming to Earth for the very first time, and understandably not handling it all that well, at least not as well as her cousin, who grew up there his entire life. So that'll actually get us moving on to Nightwing number 3. As we begin this issue, Dick Grayson has the past on his mind. In the wake of the death of Mr. Haley at the hands of masked killer Psycho in the last issue, now he's attending Haley's funeral, and all the circus performers are in attendance. But Dick's accosted by Haley's son, who's drunk and mad that his father left the entire circus to Dick. Talking to Rhea afterwards, this is his old friend who we met in previous issues, She tells him of their other old friend, Zane. He's kind of a killer's booking agent out in Chicago, which surprises him. But like everyone else, Rhea seems to brush him off because she feels he doesn't have time for his past and is more focused on where he's going rather than where he's been. But not to be outdone, Nightwing pays a visit to Zane now that he's got this new info about him, and as it turns out, Zane's actually got another couple surprises up his sleeve in the form of a psychic radio signal that exploits Dick's worst fears by creating hallucinations. Dick turns the tables on him by inverting the signal back onto Zane. Leaving Zane after their thought-provoking duel with some harsh words along the lines of "find a new career or else," Dick goes to see Rhea once again, where he explains that his reluctance to look back on things has actually had a lot to do with not wanting to see her in pain. As a result, she seems to be moved enough to forgive him, and this issue ends with the rather ominous realization that Haley's son may be connected to these latent ill events, and I'll leave it there. As for showing a page, I want to go with the one where Nightwing is losing it as a result of Zane's psychic barrage. Just a crazy page. And as for rating the issue, I'm going to go solid 4 out of 5 because, as usual, this one has taken twists and turns, and I really don't know where we're heading, and it excites me. So then I'll actually get us on to Wonder Woman number 3. Wonder Woman and her Amazon sisters are overlooking funeral pyres on the edge of the beach surrounding Paradise Island as we open this issue, in the wake of Strife's tricking them into attacking each other in the previous. We find that Alika, the Amazon Diana sparred against previously, has a bitter distaste for her and blames her for bringing Zola and Hermes and the ensuing battle with her to their island. Alika spitefully calls Diana clay, which amuses Strife as it pertains to Diana's coming into being. In spite of Strife's general glee at antagonizing Hermes and the Amazons, Diana wants to know why Strife called her her sister. But Hippolyta, Diana's mother, answers this question herself, and we find that she and Zeus were at one time lovers. They fought and they danced in a romantic fashion, and from it Diana was birthed. As Diana is being made aware of this, Alika is inciting what may turn into an all-out Amazonian rebellion against Diana's remaining on Paradise Island with her sisters on the beach. But not before a clash between Diana and her mother, when she realizes her entire life has been a lie forged to keep her away from Hera's vengeful hands. Diana feels like a fool. She's confused, bitter, and angry, and storms away from her mother, tearing through the woods, and eventually coming back out to the beach where Alika is waiting. And before Alika can finish a call to arms, Diana slams her in the face and takes her torch. She spins around and, using super breath of sorts, lights the funeral pyres of her sisters once more. She vows that the only shame brought to this island is hers and hers alone to bear, and that she'll leave her home once and for all. And the issue ends with an epic decree from Diana, akin to that great quote from Superman in Action Comics #1. Just an epic final page. But as for showing a page in the issue, I want to go with the moment when Diana slams Alika in the face and steals her torch, looking bold and effortless in doing so. And as for rating the issue, I'm going to go solid 5 out of 5. This one was definitely epic. So that'll actually do it for this installment of DC Comics New 52 Reviews. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.